Hey everyone! Today I'm going to show you two ways to make a no-sew backpack for your stuffed animal. The first one out of paper or cardstock, and the second a drawstring backpack made of fabric. There have been a lot of requests for this, so let's get started! I'm going to start with the one made of paper or cardstock, so here I have my pattern. I'll link a printable version in the description box, and I'm going to be using this polka dot cardstock to make this. I originally bought this for thank you notes for my Etsy shop, but it was hard to read on, so I'm just going to use this to make my backpack. Instead of cardstock, you could also use paper for this. I first need to cut this into the shape of my pattern, so I'm just going to lightly glue the pattern to the back of this cardstock, and since it's glue stick, I'll be able to really easily peel it off later. My cardstock isn't quite long enough, but that's okay. The only part cut off is part of the tab that folds in on the side. So now I can just cut my piece out. Next, before gluing it all together, I need to make a few cuts at the bottom, and I've marked these lines with some horizontal lines going over them. After that, I can just fold on those other lines I've drawn. Next, I'm going to glue together the bottom. I added glue to the outside of those smaller flaps, and to the inside of that longer one, so it can fold over the rest. Before folding it up completely though, make sure to add some glue to that side tab to close up the side of the backpack. And after that, the backpack is pretty much formed. But in order to close it, I'm going to kind of have to fold in the sides. So I'm making a crease in the middle of the side, and then just folding it in half so the two halves touch. And this crease shouldn't go all the way down, the base should still be flat, and that way the pocket can fold over the top. I also need to do that to the other side. Once we have that though, we still need a way to keep the backpack closed. So I'm cutting out this little rectangle that is tapered on one end, and I'm cutting out a thinner rectangle to form the buckle that it's going to slide into. I'm also folding the buckle around that little belt so I know exactly how wide it needs to be. Before adding this to the backpack, I want the buckle to pop a little more, so I'm going to paint it gold. And I'm also painting the edge of the pocket gold just to tie everything together. After letting everything dry, I'm going to glue on that little belt to the edge of the pocket, and I'm having it stick out about ½ inch off. And before gluing on the buckle, I'm folding over the pocket and making a marking exactly where I need to add the buckle. But keep in mind, if you add stuff to this backpack, it might get harder to close, so it might be better to add the buckle a little higher than you think. So now I'm folding in those sides of the buckle and gluing it down, making sure there's still a little opening that the belt will fit through. And after that, I added a little jewel at the top of the belt just for decoration. Now the last thing to do is add the straps. I didn't have enough cardstock left to make the straps out of cardstock, so I just took a recycled piece of printer paper and glued it in half so now it's twice as thick. And then I cut strips off of that to make the backpack straps. Next, I glued them to the top of the backpack first, and then off camera I tried this on my stuffed animal to see if the straps were the right length or if I needed to cut them. After trimming them, I glued the free ends of the straps to the bottom of the backpack, and I later had to reinforce them with tape because putting the backpack on can pull on the straps a little. And after that, this backpack is done! You can add mini school supplies or anything you want to it. I added this working binder I made in a previous video. A quick warning though, the thicker the stuff you add, the harder it is to close the backpack, so maybe folders are a better choice than a binder. Next, I'm going to make a drawstring backpack out of fabric, so I obviously need fabric. I'm using this cute beehive one, and the first thing to do is cut out the pattern. I'll also have this pattern linked in the description box. Since this is a no-sew bag, I'm going to use hot glue to put it together, but you could also use fabric glue or thick liquid glue. If you use hot glue like me though, make sure to be very careful. Once my piece is cut out, the first thing to do is fold in and glue these tabs sticking out of the sides. My glue gun wasn't fully hot enough, so I just did a few dots to secure the fold. After folding down all 4 tabs, I need to fold over the top and bottom edges. This is supposed to be a pretty big fold, so I like to just match up the edges we just glued down. You want to put the glue as close to the edge as possible so there's enough room to fit a safety pin through that fold, but make sure you don't accidentally burn yourself with the exposed hot glue. I'd recommend using a pencil to press the fabric together and not your fingers. I had one ready just in case, but didn't end up needing it. If the glue you're using dries pretty hard like hot glue does, it's best to just do a few dots and not a long line because this fold will eventually have to scrunch up. After doing that to the top and bottom edges, I'm going to fold the whole thing in half good side to good side, and this time I'm going to stick the edges closed with a long line of glue. But I did make a mistake here. I was not supposed to put glue all the way up to the top edge, so I eventually had to unstick those top folds. After gluing the sides together except for that top edge, I tried turning the bag inside out, but the sides were kind of coming apart, So to reinforce it, I'm adding some more hot glue along the joined edges. And even though that'll dry really stiff, it's not a big deal because I'm fine with the sides of the bag being straight anyways. But after doing that, I finally turned the bag inside out, and now we can add the strings. I'm using some plain white yarn for this, but you can use any string you want. I first tied the yarn to a safety pin. I just tied it around once so I'd be able to easily remove it later. Next, I'm going to insert the safety pin through one of the open folds and feed that through to the other side. To do this, I like to scrunch the fabric around the safety pin for a little bit, then pull the fabric down and around it to straighten everything out. Once I've gotten to the other side, I'm then going into that next opening and doing the same thing until I basically get back to where I started. After the safety pin comes out on the other side, I'm pulling on it so there's about 8 inches of extra yarn sticking out. Then I can cut the other end of the yarn to the same length and untie the safety pin. Now I'm going to do that exact same thing on the other side, so this time I'm entering through the folds that don't have string hanging out yet. After it's gone all the way around, I cut the yarn, and now you pretty much have a simple drawstring bag where if you pull on the yarn, the top should close. But I'm trying to make this a backpack, so to do that, I'm first trying it on my stuffed animal to see how long the straps need to be. You want the bag to be closed when doing this. I'm wrapping the yarn around my stuffed animal's arms and holding them near the bottom of the backpack to see how long they need to be. Then I'm trimming the yarn at least 1.5 inches longer than they need to be. Next, I need to look at which side of the bag is going to be the back. Since I folded the fabric in half, on one side the beehives are upside down, so I'm making that side the back. So now in the bottom corners of the back side, I'm going to make some very small cuts in the fabric and pull the yarn through that hole from the inside. I used a crochet hook to help me with this. Then I kind of pulled that corner I'm working with inside out so I could see it better and tied a knot at the ends of the yarn. I tied probably 3 or 4 knots because I needed it big enough that the yarn wouldn't get pulled through the hole. You could also glue the knots to the hole to make sure the strap never gets pulled through. And after doing the same thing for the other strap, this drawstring backpack is done! You actually don't even need to use this as a backpack, you could just keep it as a little pouch for yourself. Now you can fill it with whatever you want. I just grabbed some stuff nearby, which was washi tape and that safety pin I already used. One more thing though is after all we've done adding the strings and stuff, that top fold might be coming apart a bit, so you may have to re-glue some parts if they lift it up. But there you have it! 2 ways to make a no-sew backpack for your stuffed animal or yourself if you just want a mini backpack. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, comment any video requests you have, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next year!